What's up, everyone? The Tin Man with the Resistance. If you're watching this, you are the Resistance. We are the Worldwide Resistance Network, TWWRN. I, of course, am the Tin Man. And joining me tonight is Connor. He is back. He is doing good. You know, life has its ups and downs, but he
Always,
perseveres.
always, or at least I try.
And I'm getting fucking hot in this fucking helmet and shit. Damn it.
Are you
So
East
what else
Coast
is
or
hot?
West Coast?
I am on the East Coast, and believe it or not, it's actually pretty fucking hot today.
Well,
And you know,
you got a storm coming your way because I'm on the East Coast and it's got nothing but like cloudy thunderstorms. So by the time you go to bed tonight, you might get some boom booms.
we've had thunderstorms the past few days. We got some cloud cover. It's still pretty bright outside, but I try to keep my blinds shut in the summertime, try to keep it cool in this house. But you know where else is pretty fucking hot? California.
Yeah, I'm told. I'm
And
told.
unlike a lot of those motherfuckers, they ain't got air conditioning. They ain't got air conditioning because a lot of them motherfuckers is homeless.
Yeah, almost
Yeah.
like we gotta move them around to somewhere that's a little colder.
Yeah, like you remember when I first started doing this and you and I met, I was living at my sister's. I was unemployed. Life was hard. Then I moved to the East Coast. Or not so much East Coast. Would it be considered East Coast? I'm like 2 states away from the East Coast. But life was a lot better. But ever since I left California nearly 10 years ago, things have just gotten progressively worse to where the homeless population makes up a huge chunk of the population. And now apparently Donald Trump has signed an executive order to effectively relocate the homeless population into rehabilitation facilities, rehabs and mental health facilities. Now, I having lived in California, and I also know people who visit California, and I have friends in California still. I've actually been talking to a lot of people about this recently, and a lot of the homeless populations, like say San Francisco, they're in the poorer areas. That's where they're camping out. They're not camping out in the mainstream areas like what you'd see in the news. They're not camping out in the business districts and the inner city and whatnot like that. They're in the rural areas, the low income areas. That's where a lot of these homeless are residing. And apparently Trump wants to relocate all these people out of there, get them off the street and get them in somewhere. And a lot of what's available would be mental health facilities, mental institutions, and rehab centers. Because let's face facts, a lot of the people who are on the street are probably going to be affiliated with drugs. Not saying all of them, not even saying majority, but quite a few would probably be suffering from some sort of substance abuse problem, having been living in that type of situation and being in those rural areas where stuff like that tends to run rampant. Let's not mince words.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and most of these facilities, whether rehab or mental institutions, there's not really been a high demand of occupancy, for lack of a better term. Especially drug use and sobriety and whatnot, that is definitely in high demand. A lot of people suffer from substance abuse, but people being in these programs and in these facilities, there's not a lot of people there. So it does make sense in a way to utilize these facilities to get the homeless off the street. Now, a lot of people like Newsum and the mainstream media are arguing that they're being taken these people are being taken and housed in these facilities against their will. And there appears to be no definite plan as to how long they will be staying and what what it's going to take to get these people back on their feet, and how they're even going to afford the housing and necessities of these people, food, medical, and all that. Yeah. And it just raises so many questions.
Well, there's a lot. Like I could dissect that like in different ways. Like one is, so I'll bring up an old quick story from like something in Canada that we had. We used to do this, and this is like a dirty pool shorthanded version of what you guys are getting ready to do. So when and at this point I'm speaking in a stereotypical fashion. I am not seeking to single anybody out, but we've all heard of the stereotypical quote unquote the drunken native. So whenever you would see this, right, and where I'm from in Canada, that's not a stereotype that I've physically witnessed. I would only witness that when I got out into Thunder Bay, Ontario, and then I would begin to see these negative stereotypes. And that's where these jokes and these things are coming from. Well, what the police were doing to these people back in the day, and when I say back in the day, I'm talking more like 70s and 80s, perhaps up to the mid 90s. What they would do is that they would arrest somebody that was public intoxication, and instead of processing them with paperwork and so on and so forth and, doing the job, what they would do is they would pick up this person, they drive for 45 minutes, 2 hours. And in Canada, we got this lovely thing. It's called winter, right? Fucking sucks. Didn't matter. And they would just drive you out and in the middle of nowhere, and they would just let you go because, see, you're guaranteed your freedom, but you're not guaranteed to be dropped off where I picked you up. And they would just let drunken people, and I use the negative stereotype of the drunken native because it was the natives that were most predominantly victims of this police action. See, a lot of shit that you guys do to the African Americans or just the straight up black people of the United States, we've done it to the natives, right? So it's like I'm no cleaner than you are in that way when we start talking about like bigotries and shit like that. But see, the thing that has now happened in our lifetime now, and a lot of rappers have said this, fuck Jesse Jackson because it's not about race now, right? It's like we used to say, and I'll drop the N word right now, like you the nigger too, right? All of it, like it doesn't matter what color you are. We're all in some sort of slavery or bondage. It's new. There's no ball and chain. It's a little screen. You can't see the bars or controlling it. And we've beat this dead horse a few times, so we already know where the mentality comes from. Well, we've been doing this for a long time. The only question I have now is that with these new facilities that are being created, is Trump making showers available? Because that's very reminiscent to Adolf Hitler's Germany with these new gorgeous facilities, and we're just going to rehabilitate people and so. But like, I'm sorry, I'm a Canadian, and I'm telling you right now, Mr. Trump, you cannot rehabilitate an American patriot. That's what the Americans want to become. They came to the United States for the free dream, for the open opportunity, the ability to make families, the ability to become part of the republic, and to become a patriot of the United States. That's like what we would call like normal, sane, logical thinking for the American citizen. And it's appearing as though, because let's not mince words. What's the larger percentage of homeless people in the United States? They're vets. They're veterans, right? So, in a nutshell, Trump's about to go and like grab a bunch of military veterans from off the streets and put them into some sort of rehabilitation, dare I say, re-education camp. And I'll say re-education for this. And then at this point, it has nothing to do with Nazi Germany, nothing like that. It's nothing of that nature. Sure, the words, they sound similar, but that's not the direction I'm walking with this one. I'm walking in this direction of re-education for this. Okay, so let's put ourselves in Joe Punch Clock's shoes. Joe Punch Clock, he woke up this morning. He went to work. He punched the clock. He did his work. And at the end of the shift, he punched the clock again. But when he punched the clock again tonight, there's some Americans don't even know what job they were doing. But they punched that clock tonight, and on the way out, they got a pink slip. It's a horrible story, but we know what happens. They're going to get that last day of work out of you, and then they're going to fire you. Now, Joe Punch Clock's only got so much money in the bank account. Joe Punch Clock's only got so much food in the fridge. maybe if he's lucky, the rent is already taken care of him, but maybe he's behind, right? Maybe he's already arguing with the missus over this, right? The bills are stacking up. Now Joe Punchclock has just lost his job. It's all going to go chaotic. Right now, it looks like he's got it together, right? Because we're all about 3 paychecks away from being the guy on the street, right? So in about 6 weeks, Joe Punchclock is going to, one of 2 things is going to happen to Joe Punchclock. One, his wife and children are going to leave him because they have a better chance as a single wife with children for government assistance than as a family. That's a horrible thing to say out loud, but the saving of the family unit is not in the government's best interest, you see. So Joe Punchclock will lose his wife at this point.
Take desired interest.
Right? So it's so Joe Punchclock now loses his wife and loses his children. And they go maybe to the mother-in-law's, right? So Joe Punchclock still has a roof over his head, but rent hasn't been paid. So eventually Joe Punchclock's going to be on the street, right? Now let's dissect this a little bit more, right? Okay, let's be kind to Joe Punchclock and let's make him go on the streets in spring so he has summer. Well, why is there such a big homeless problem in California? Climate. It's campable weather, right? Yep. California's not terribly
365 days a year, depending on where you're at. You can live on the street and not freeze to death. A few years ago, we had some pretty harsh winters, and we had some people die just up in Nashville who were homeless. If I remember correctly, just a few years after I moved here, I remember reading a story about how 2 homeless people in Nashville were found frozen to death on the street in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep. And we see that a lot. Like that's a thing that happens in Canada more often than we want to admit. But like we have harsh winters too, and like we find them dead, man, and it's fucking heart-wrenching. So in my little city, there was a year I think we lost 3 or 4 of them, but they were in quite quick succession. So it was palpable. It was raw. It was like, man, these are people. Like we can't like that could be my aunt, my cousin, my sister. You know, it could be anybody. And they're just fucking dying like animals. Like we can't allow that. And there's one guy, right, in my city, and you know how they always, you know, maybe somebody should do something about this. And this motherfucker was like, I'm somebody. I'm going to do something about this. And he went and he grabbed his barbecue and he went to a gas station, way to the corner, away from the gas pumps, obviously, and lit the barbecue, started giving hot dogs away to the homeless, just straight out, just feeding them. For no good reason, just feeding them. And he did that rain or shine. And the bigger the storm, the longer the line and more hot dogs he brought. And he fed and he fed. Next thing you know, not rich people, but people who had money started going up to him, donating the hot dogs, donating the buns, donating the propane, donating the money. Long story short, this guy here starts with a barbecue and free hot dogs. And today, he's out in the country about 35 minutes, 40 minutes, give or take, just outside of the city outskirts. And he has a country-styled farm animals rehab center. Take the homeless, bring them out there, not against their will, brings them out there. They already want to clean up. So you know how they always say it's easier to help somebody that wants to help themselves, right? So he does these things. He's got this whole facility put together, and he's doing his little part. Now, so when people say Trump's going to start grabbing homeless people and relocating them and helping them, I can say, okay, well, Charlie did that. He's not the government. He's just a dude. But he created a location where the homeless could willingly relocate themselves to his locations, doors wide open, we'll make do, and they do that. So in order for this to work, right, for Joe Punchclock, so Trump comes and grabs. Oh no! Wait! Trump can't save Joe Punchclock yet because he hasn't hit rock bottom. Okay, so now Joe Punchclock is going to lose his house. Joe Punchclock is going to be on the street in the spring. He's going to do everything he can, and along the way, he's going to lose hope. Right, about a month or so before the fall hits. Right, but now it's getting cold. It's getting cold out there. Right, and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. So this is what Joe Punchclock is going to do. Maybe he's in Nashville, right? and the winter's starting to get a little closer, and he knows the stories. He knows it's going to get real cold. His life is in jeopardy. It's getting cold out there. Joe Punchclock, he doesn't know how to handle this, right? Joe Punchclock finds heroin. Do you know why Joe Punchclock finds heroin? Because heroin's like fire through your veins. Much like alcohol, it'll warm you up. It's an illusion. You're going to die of fucking hypothermia, but your brain believes that you are warm. So you're developing a dependence on a substance to keep you warm through the cold nights while you migrate your ass on foot, hitchhiking, people not picking you up, people wishing you would just get a job, people wishing whatever. And now Joe Punchclock has made it to California. He can now set up camp and survive for a whole year, but he hasn't fed himself yet, right? He's California. He can go fishing, right? But we got some laws in the States. I don't know. So this is Joe Punchclock's like decline into becoming that human being that we don't want to look at anymore and that we don't want to help. And now Trump's going to come and rescue Joe Punchclock, right? That's the mission here. But now Joe Punchclock is knees deep in probably a drug debt, half strung out because he couldn't control the amount of substances that he was taking in, because it went from wanting to stay warm to just wanting to be happy, right? So now the substance has a grip on him. And at this point in Joe Punchclock's life, this is the point where this person that's got the substance, they got a grip on him. Joe Punchclock's not letting go of the needle right now. That's not going to happen. The needle hasn't had time to ruin Joe Punchclock's life yet. Right now, the needle is still the savior. So this particular homeless person, Joe Punchclock, he would be taken against his will to go to one of these facilities.
At which point that would need to happen, because he has a substance abuse problem. You know, it's effectively an intervention, a state-funded intervention.
And I've been in jail, and I had friends that I was like, okay, raw deal. I'll never say any names about this, but I'm sitting there in my cell. New guy comes in, and you can tell he's tweaking. He's just a tweaker. So at this point, I know I'm fine. I got nothing to worry about, because where I come from, I'm the boss. You're the employee. If you're a tweaker, you're my employee. That's just unfortunate, but that's how it is. And because that's not something I did. I no needles, no pills. Fucking copious amounts of beer and copious amounts of weed. Make no mistake about it. But the chemicals, no. So I'm looking at him, and you're never supposed to ask, right? But I'm a piece of shit, so I don't care. And I'm in jail, man. I want to fight anyway. So I'm looking at the guy, and I'm like, so what would you get arrested for? Ladies and gentlemen, do not ask that question. That is inappropriate fucking dialogue when you're in jail. Okay? You best know how to throw these things that around and start asking people why they're arrested. So I said, what'd you get arrested for? And he looked at me with a straight face. And I'll never forget this. And this is why I kind of take this slight stance. It's because all of you civvies, you've never been in a jail cell where your cellmate walks in and tells you with a straight face that he was not arrested, bro. I was rescued.
He was what?
He goes, I wasn't arrested. I was rescued. He had such a severe substance addiction problem that he was acting a fool in public. It is what it is. That property damage. They arrested him. They put him in a 72-hour hold, so 3 days in a cell, no interaction with nobody. He detoxed in that cell the hardest, most grotesque way possible, and then was sentenced. It took about a month for his sentencing, so he'd be sober for that month in isolation. They keep him in isolation. Sentencing came, boom, he landed in with us, and now he's got to serve his sentence, just like we have to serve our sentences. And here we are, we're shooting the breeze, we're talking smack, and you know. And then I realized, like, he said it at lunch. He goes, boys, because I had asked him, right? I was like, what'd you get arrested for? And he's like, I didn't get arrested, I got rescued. And then he went to the dining hall with us. And he said, raise your hand if you weren't arrested and that you were rescued. And there was 5 individuals. There was like 30 of us on that range, but 5 of them with zero fucking shame. And these are big boys, pump iron. You got something to say? Did that punch you out? They don't care. And these are 5 individuals, raised their hands. I was not arrested. I was rescued. I was hurting my family. I was ruining my life. I was hurting the people that I don't know that live beside me. So when we ask ourselves, will these people even look at this as some sort of help? Not in the first 24 hours, maybe not even in the first week. But once their sober self comes back, they will have, to a degree, of course, to a degree, a logical outlook on life. I sat, so when I sat in these jail cells, right, I was a provincial inmate, right? So it's 2 years less one day. You do provincial time. So it'd be state time for you guys. And then if the judge sentences you to 2 years plus one day, it's federal time. So if you're one of the guys that is the 2 years plus one day, you're going to the federal, and you're going to stay in that federal penitentiary till your last 6 months. If you're a guy that's doing 15 years, you're going to do 14 years and 6 months, because the last 6 months of your sentence, you're going to come and serve it with my dumbass, me, who got 2 years less a day. And I stayed in a provincial facility for most of my sentence. The last 3 months of my provincial sentence and the last 6 months of your federal sentence, we're both going to serve them together in the same facility. First step towards reintegration to society. We're going to put the little boys back in with the big boys. If the big boys try to get the little boys to be their underlings again, the big boys go back to the pen. They get taken out of the minimum security. They clearly haven't learned their lesson. If the little boys start going up to the big boys, start looking for advice on how to not get caught, the guards, they see all this shit. There's reports. They write it all fucking down. And if it's the little guys that are going up to the federal guys trying to become better criminals, those guys will go back to their facilities. They can get time added. It's to reintegrate. Can we put these two groupings of criminals under the same roof without them contemplating committing crimes together when they get released? Because in Canada, we don't have inmates. We have clients. Yeah. We don't have jails. We have correctional facilities. And every inmate of a correctional facility is a client, because while they were free citizens, they paid taxes. Our taxes build our jails. So when we spend time in our correctional facilities, we're not inmates, we're clients. We paid for this bitch. So our jails are treated like hospitals, because criminality is a social disorder. We don't lock people up and throw away the key. We put them in facilities where they have access to computers, education. Man, the last 3 months of my sentence, I was swimming and bowling. They were taking me out of jail, closing down entire public swimming facilities and letting me and 15 other guys go and swim. The following week, it'd be another group of 16 other guys. They would go, right? So it just depends. So when we start talking about like systems that Trump is designing to try and help the homeless, it's not negative or positive, because unfortunately Trump is he's a man of money. And men of money, well, money is the solution to all problems. And to the free thinker, the money.
I see a problem. How much money is it going to take to fix it?
That's right. The free thinker, the revolutionary, is the money is the root of all problems, right? But the rich person, it's how much money can I throw at the problem to make it go away? That never works unless you have heart, emotion, a little bit of love, right? So you need some. Trump needs to invest in the sanctuary recovery program. He needs to have
what we were trying to do back in the day. This is something that we were trying to avoid, because we saw where California and other areas were going. You know, people needed somewhere they were going to need to go. They were going to need to go somewhere. They can't be living on fucking street corners in a fucking tent outside of a business where the business owner sits there and puts up a loudspeaker and starts blasting Baby Shark for 24 hours a day. I'm sure you've seen that video.
Yep. The only thing, and
I mean, it's funny as hell, but it's savage too.
it's very savage. And then
I
they're
mean,
like,
we needed more people, to start up their little free hot dogs and have it grow into a fucking full-on ranch.
yeah, and it's called the project is called the Humanity Project. That's the name of that project.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and that's here in New Brunswick, and hopefully they're gonna move it, and that'd be nice if it could get some federal funding and have the same facilities like throughout. Right. So when it comes to systems, like, you gotta remember, I'm Canadian, right? So like, I'm a socialist Democrat, right? Meaning, like, I want my country to help my people, and I want to have the right to vote for what programs we start first, and like, what do we believe is more important? Is education more important? Is hospitals more important? Guys, let's put it to a vote, right? But no matter what, the money's going to one of them. I can tell you how to fix the United States almost overnight, but nobody will ever, ever, ever do it because you're not allowed to do it in the United States. Okay?
Because it's not a socialist system, it's a capitalist system.
That's right. And you could still live the exact same way you're living if you changed only one thing: the direction that the already collected tax dollar. What direction does it go? Repurposing the tax dollar. Not getting rid of the tax dollar, repurposing it. And shit done right, the Americans might even say, hey, why don't you put it up an extra percent now that I know what you're trying to do with it? Because right now, the tax dollar...
If you actually spend my tax dollars on me, I'm inclined to invest in me. Now you put that on a national scale, holy shit, yeah. Americans are down to invest in themselves. Oh, you're gonna fucking fix our roads, you're gonna make sure my hospital bills are taken care of, you're gonna use my tax money to fund this, that, and the other things to make my life easier.
Right.
So that I don't have to scrimp and save and do it myself. Most Americans would be down for that. And it's not necessarily evading
and baby steps
in favor of socialism or even communism. It's just putting the money where it was supposed to go in the first place. American taxes were supposed to go towards America, fixing the roads, paying for the schools, and all that fun shit, which
it's paying
none of which goes to.
And here's the big question. We understand that the American tax dollars are used to pay down the war debt. To fucking who? Who does the United States taxpayer actually owe money to that the United States government is not prepared to fight with? You owe me money. Fuck you, come and get it. That's all it would take. That's it. United States tomorrow morning says...
That's exactly it. It's called the Federal Reserve, which is Israeli owned. Rothschild, all that shit. It all ties back. They loan us our own money at interest, and we have to take out loans and whatnot to fund these wars, which carries interest. So we're paying back our own Federal Reserve indefinitely.
Yeah. And like, Rothschild could be swift about this if I was in one of their fucking think tanks, you guys would never see me coming, I'll tell you that. Because they could make this real easy on themselves. Baby steps. From now on, we no longer pay to deliver babies in an American hospital. You still got to pay for your cast. You're still going to, there's still going to be things that you have to pay for. But right now...
Welcome, Reverend.
Welcome, sir. But right now, free childbirth. That's like how much money in the States to give birth to a child. That's a substantial debt burden relief for a lot of American taxpayers. Just not needing to pay for bringing a child into the world. So there's how many Americans? It's about $100,000 per American. Or you guys could even be like, y'all capitalists. First one's free. First baby's free. Second baby you pay. Baby steps, little steps. And then you add to it, you know, that free baby we gave you? I don't want you to panic. We're free school. So you would do only the socialist constructs that substantially assist a large population. Roads, schools, hospitals. That's it. Right? And then you could do like a percentage of the accrued taxes to pay for politicians. You could even it's the United States. You could take 50% of that money, pay your politicians, and do 50% socialistic programs like roads, schools, and hospitals. And your economy would almost bounce back, because how many hospital bills just wouldn't need to get paid for the childbirths, for the working families that are just trying to figure shit out? Like, we're not saying free houses. We're not saying communistic. No. Schools, hospitals, roads. And unless you can think of something that is as fundamentally impacting on a society, then you could add that in, right? Like, but those three are really, like, you got to be able to get around your whole fucking country. You got to be able to move. You got to be able to do so in a healthy fashion. And you sure as fuck can't be an idiot pretending like you know something when you're driving around. Those three things are like the most paramount things inside of a society. So without going full dictator, without going full communist, and without even going full socialist, we can utilize a capitalist system, meaning how we make the money and how we collect the taxes. That remains unchanged.
It's just putting the money where it was supposed to go in the first place.
It's putting the money where everybody thought it was originally going when we were kids. Me as a Canadian child, I pay my parents pay taxes. You as an American child, your parents pay taxes. But me as a Canadian child, I didn't understand that my taxes paid for my hospitals and my schools, and your guys' taxes did not do that. I never understood. Only as an adult did that really start to sink in. Canada, we're getting ready to establish a piece of capitalistic healthcare, meaning if you can pay to play, then yes, here's this long line of people. But if you can pay a doctor that's willing to take money, then, because some doctors, they don't. This is the Canadian healthcare problem in a nutshell. Okay, in Canada, we have a moose hunting license, right? And it's a draw, and there's only a certain amount of people that get that license to go hunting the moose. So doctors, they have what's called a billing number. The billing number and the moose license, they're similar in this way. Whereas the government only issues a certain amount of billing numbers to doctors. So you could have Dr. A and Dr. B. Dr. A has a billing number. Dr. B does not have a billing number. He just didn't win the draw. He doesn't have a billing number. When I go see Dr. A, I give him my Medicare card, and he puts that Medicare number in. The government pays him because he has a billing number. Dr. B, I give him my Medicare card. He can have it, but he has nowhere to bring this card number to be reimbursed for his service. He can't get paid because he doesn't have a billing number. Now, if Dr. B says, I make $30 on your visit. So if I take your Medicare card and I put it through, if I had a billing number, the government would pay me $30 for seeing you. If you give me the $30, I will let you use my doctorate's degree. I will sign your prescription. I will be your doctor. If I can get paid, I'll take care of you. So there's a big grouping of Dr. B's that don't have billing license that are trying to establish a pay-to-play healthcare system to try and alleviate from the healthcare system that will not. If you have an over fucking abundance of moose in the country and you got to dwindle down the numbers, what do? You make more hunting licenses available. 500 this year, 1,000 next year. We'll get that population down. If you have an over fucking abundance of sick people in your goddamn country, what do? You increase the amount of billing numbers so that you can have doctors serving people. And if the country is refusing to increase billing numbers, then we have to allow some sort of a reasonable, rational, not financially gouging pay-to-play system. if the doctor gets $30 and he's charging 120, well, that's a gouging pay to play system. Now only the super rich can afford. But if he just says, I just want the $30 the government would have given me, and if you have it, I'll take it and I'll take care of you, that system should be allowed. Now, as a socialist, I understand that capitalist model should be allowed inside of my country. It gets more sick people the help that they need. And yeah, these are the people that can afford to pay for it. They pay for it. It shortens the line for those who can't pay for it. So both lines start to move in a little bit more of a steady pace. If I can figure this out, then why can't Donald Trump figure out, and why can't the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Federal Reserve, why can't they figure it out? Why can't they say, okay, so I have this many citizens and I'm going to establish this much money per citizen, and we're just going to print it out of thin air. And we're going to make it inside this system. By doing that, you're re-injecting money into the financial system, but you're not giving it to the super rich to invest in Wall Street. You're giving it to hospitals to buy x-ray machines. You're giving it to schools to buy chalkboards and flat screens. And so the money is being used on the commerce level. So that goes up. And the people that are working inside those stores, well, the money is going up, which means they can start requesting raises. So they have money that they've earned. So we haven't watered down the amount, like what money is worth. And then they could do all of this almost in the snap of a finger and say, okay, well, I'm going to collect this much taxes over the next 4 years. So inside of this next presidency, I will collect this much money. If I take half of that money, will that cover this idea that this crackpot on the internet had? And unfortunately, I'm almost positive that half of what they gather is more than enough to make this a reality. That's what we need to get talking about.
Exactly, but they're too busy. Congress is too busy giving themselves raises and giving money to foreign aid and embezzling it through, various USAID shit.
Yeah,
hence the whole thing with Doge. But then, Trump comes out with a spending bill that increases the national budget. I mean, there's no fucking cap on the fucking budget. It's like, what I want to do is going to cost X amount of money, but I only have this much money. So, I'm going to just give myself a extended line of credit. That's what that is when they say they're increasing the spending cap. They're extending their line of credit. Mm-hmm. It's like I own my own credit card and I can give myself and I can set the spending limit. Mm-hmm. That's what the government is doing with American tax dollars. And if Trump is allocating funds towards getting homeless off the street, Gavin Newsum brought up a point. I'm not a fan of Gavin Newsum at all. The guy should be in fucking jail for what he did with the Palisades. That alone. But, the point is, where are they getting the money to fund this project? Where's the food going to come from? Where's the beds going to come from? Where's the food going to come from? Where's the medical care going to come from? Where's the money coming from?
FEMA.
And probably, yeah. At
those
which point?
Those camps that Alex Jones used to talk about all the time?
That's what it seems to be. Because Newsom's sitting there saying, how long is this going to be? Is this going to be indefinite? Do these people have a choice? Newsom's suggesting that these people are being taken by force. Now, many of these people, like you said, are on drugs, and they need that help. They need to be rescued. They're not being arrested; they're being saved. And over the course of time, they may see it that way. Not initially, but later on, they might see it that way. But because there are people who are on the street, a vast majority of them, who don't want to fix their shit. My sister, for instance, she lives out by the windmills, out by the dinosaurs in Cabazon, in the middle of fucking nowhere. She lives in a fucking rundown trailer in the middle of the desert. Have either one of you seen Alpha Dogs?
Yeah.
When the kid was forced to dig his own grave and they shot him and buried him.
Yeah.
That's where my fucking sister lives.
Fuck.
That is where my sister lives. Homeless and on drugs. I have offered her dozens of times to come out here, get off the fucking street. She doesn't want to fucking do it.
No.
And it's not like I can go fucking put a gun to her head, hog tie her, throw her in the trunk of my car, and drive her back across the country here. I can't force this person to turn their life around. And me personally, say I did bring her here, and she fucking brought that drug problem here. Guess what? Next thing you know, I've got the fucking cops knocking on my door because of her stupid ass, and I go to jail. I catch a felony. I go to jail. I lose my house, my job, my state certifications, my career, everything. I would have gone from being homeless to where I am now to it being a complete smoking crater, being worse off than I was before I left California.
Yeah, and I think we're all in that boat where we all saw a really dark point in our history, and we're only now finally doing better. Right? Like I'm living what you're desperately trying to avoid, which is getting to a certain spot and then start systematically falling backwards with situations that are not yours or outside of your control. Right? And it's not fun. Yeah. It's not a cakewalk, that's for sure. And I don't wish that.
And a lot of people like myself, like I'm in a position where I can help my sister, but she won't let me help her. And if I tried to help her, is that going to come back to bite me in the ass because I'm not in a position to protect myself from her stupidity? Yeah, I'm in a position to help, but I'm not in a position to protect myself from any potential repercussions that might occur as a result of trying to help this person. So for Trump to actually step in and go, okay, I'm going to handle this type. I see what these problems are. This is what we're going to do to address the problem. Is that a good thing? Now, does it come with or is it a caveat to something worse? Is this fixing a problem that even people in my position aren't able to fix? Or is this step one to FEMA camp?
Yeah.
And at which point, where's the line?
There is none. No one took the time to draw a line in the sand. Yeah. He needs a good cause. He needs something, right? Because none of us are done talking about Epstein, right? He needs.
The thing is, when you get the homelessness.
By the way, Trump, how's it coming with those Epstein files, buddy? Yeah. I'm still waiting. I'm like, have you guys seen? I think I showed you guys the "Be a Man" meme. It's like, release the Epstein files. Be a man.
Be a man about it.
When you see the videos on like how he never had the privilege of attending Epstein Island. He says outright that he's never been to Epstein's Island, right? And he says that like he should have shut the fuck up then. Those were the words that he should have meant. Like, island? Oh yeah, I knew he had an island. Oh no, I've never been to the island. Full stop. But it's Trump. Yeah. He's got way too much fucking charisma, and he likes to talk. He's like me in this way. And Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, I go, yeah, I know him. Yeah, he likes them young. Yeah, I know he likes them. His island? Oh no, I never went to his island. And then what did he follow that up with? I never had the privilege to attend that island. It's not a privilege, bro. It's not a place you're supposed to feel bad that you didn't go to.
well,
it's like open mouth, insert foot. Shove that shoe right down your fucking throat.
But then there's this other thing. There is this other thing, which is really kind of messing with me. Who's running on the Democratic ticket? Like, who are the runner-ups for the Democrat? Like, who's coming for Trump's job? Because we already know that Trump is probably not going to run again. Oh, there's been rumors of how he could probably find a way to make it happen because it's not 2 consecutive terms. He's had 2 terms in office, but a president must step down when they've had 2 consecutive terms. And that would be like some big legal mumbo jumbo. Let the lawyers and the judges figure it out. But I don't think he's going to go for that 3rd term. So that tells me one thing. Is he trying to purposely smear the Republican Party? Does he, because he's still a businessman. So
Yeah.
he would have to know that the Republican Party will not be winning the next election and that he will not be president. And that it would be in his best financial business interest to back the next person that will be. And I don't know who the Democratic ticket person is going to be, and I don't know who's going to replace Trump for the Republicans
it's
either.
looking to be Vance for the Republican ticket, Vice President J.D. Vance for the Republican ticket, quite possibly. And right now, there's no definitive Democratic candidate, but there is talks that Gavin Newsum wants to run for the presidency, which, given what he's done in California, probably isn't going to fucking help him at all. But apparently a Democratic favorite is Cortez, AOC, the Obama cunt.
Okay,
and
so
Obama cunt.
So which one?
Yeah, and Obama cunt is the Democratic Party favorite, AOC and Obama cunt.
Is that like the pro Clinton as well? Like a
yes.
Whoever,
anything Democrats pretty much pro Clinton.
Okay.
They should just call it the Clinton Party at that point,
right?
Or the Obama Party.
Like so I think that your guys' next electoral victory, and it won't matter what color, won't matter blue or red. I think the electoral victory comes on the candidate that takes the anti-Israeli stance. But like forcefully.
No, you're not muted, Revan.
Forcefully and you know what I mean? Like they're just not fucking Adolf Hitler style. Not that guy. But the guy that says, all right, so they starved a bunch of children. Not sending them more missiles for the Iron Dome. Not until I see that these children are being fed. They're bombing schools and hospitals. Okay, no more medical aid. No more bulletproof vests go to Israel. Not until I see the rebuilding of hospitals and schools for the Palestinians. The presidential candidate that looks at the American people and says, we've given way too much money to Israel, and I am going to hold Israel accountable for the amount of money that we send. That candidate wins because of what has happened, because of the Palestinian plight, because of the Americans backing the Israelis with quote-unquote blind faith. And I know this is going to sound really weird, but because of the simple gospel teaching that's coming out. So like people are beginning to realize that Israel is not a grouping of people, that Israel is the changing of one person's name, and it was Jacob. And Jacob wrestled with God. And Jacob fought with God directly, wrestled with God. And when it was done, God himself renamed Jacob Israel. Israel translates to he who wrestles with God. Well, it looks like the nation state of Israel seems to be wrestling with God a lot lately because there's a lot of things that's not quite with the good book. I digress. Yeah. So it's not a grouping of people or a country, quite literally. And this is the fucked up part. Are you ready? Do you know who the real Israelites are? The real Israelites. Christians.
Shoot.
Christians.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
expound on this. This is going to be good.
Okay, so it's...
We're going to find Connor's body dead in a ditch with a big-ass fucking hole in his head.
You know, so in essence, the way the religious connotation of this subject goes is that one dude, and if we play this on the religious spectrum, that it all just really happened. Okay, like God literally grabbed this dude and fucking roughed him up a little bit, right? So we're gonna pretend, for the sake of argument, that Jacob literally wrestled with God, and God renamed Jacob Israel. Okay. Why is it important to know that? And I'll tell you why. Okay? Because the house of Isaac, if I'm not mistaken, is responsible for Islam. The house of, there's three of them, Isaac, Ishmael. Yeah. The house of Ishmael, if I'm not mistaken,
is
the Jews.
responsible for Islam because
Islam.
Jacob not only bought Ishmael's birthright for some soup, but he also duped his older brother out of his father's blessing.
Okay, so
because
that's
his father was fucking blind.
that those three boys. Okay, guys, that's why we're fighting. It's that war. Okay, one of those brothers belongs to Islam. One of those brothers belongs to the Jews, and one of those brothers, Jacob, the Jacobites, are the Christians. But Jacob wrestled with God, and what did Jacob become? Israel. So the Christians that come out of the house of Jacob.
It was only two brothers. There were only two brothers.
Isaac, Ishmael. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Abraham, Isaac, and Ishmael. Okay, fine. Where's Jacob come from?
Yeah.
Where's the house of Jacob come from now?
Yeah. Abraham begot Isaac. Isaac begot Jacob, who became Israel.
There we go. So that fight, those guys, that's the huge fight as to who's going to be the big one. Well, then it comes to find out that the true Israelite, the true Israeli, is the man that gives his heart to God. That's an Israeli is the man that gives his heart to God. It's a fucking
true convert.
spiritual thing. It has nothing to do with landmass and Pharaoh, let my people go, and then Adolf Hitler's a bad man, and then with a bunch of Khazars that were fucking cannibals and fucking pedophiles. The Khazars were getting ready to be destroyed. Okay, they were told convert or die, and you could choose between Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, but you had to pick one of the three, or you were going to be destroyed. The Khazars picked Judaism, and that's why the Muslims have a big problem with Israel, because the old school Muslims with the big fucking white beard, they look at you with a straight face and they'll tell you this, and this should bring a lot of it into clarity for us. The poor Muslims in the Middle East, they don't understand how the Jews left black and came back white. They don't get it.
Because those aren't the true Jews.
That's what Adolf Hitler said.
Apparently DNA testing is outlawed in Israel. I don't know if this is definitively true. This is just something I have heard.
Yeah,
if I am wrong, by all means correct me. But from what I am understanding is that DNA testing has been outlawed in Israel because they don't want the claim of inheritance being challenged.
Yeah, well, if you do a DNA test on an Israeli from Israel, it'll go back to Europe, to the Khazars. They're fucking Europeans, man. They're Europeans. Okay. No, they're not. Yeah, they are. They were fucking brought. Okay. Are you trying to tell me with a straight face that Adolf Hitler went to the Middle East, rounded up some Jews, and then sent them to Germany when his problem was trying to get Jews out of Germany? So the Jews that left and went to Israel take all the time you need, but where'd they leave from? They left from Europe and landed in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And that's why the Torah is super important to always remember, because it's the Torah that tells us that they're not supposed to have a country. Not my God that said it. It ain't the Muslim God that said it. According to Jewish religious writings, they're not supposed to have a land, and that they're supposed to forsake one if it was given to them. Those who have religious studies, even to the smallest degree, realize that we're all being swindled. We're being duped, and it's all going to come to an unfortunate end.
Yeah, and that's why we were talking last week about Israel influence collapsing government and financial systems, like what happened in Germany and other countries in which Israel's been kicked out of, whether it be 100 and 9 or just 12, as Google indicates, what does it matter at that point? You know, they still got kicked out of those countries, and it was because of societal, economic, and governmental collapse, of which the Jewish people had their hands in. That's why they got kicked out. Now, you see it happening here in the West, and with all this Epstein shit, it's looking like Israel is trying to make itself look bad. It's trying to shoot itself in the foot, especially in terms of its diplomatic relations.
It's the last time.
It's starting to be wondered if, considering the Orthodox Jews hold to the idea of rejecting a land, even if it's given to them, if the Zionists in Israel are trying to force the hands of the Jews and say, you're coming whether you like it or not, we're going to get you kicked out, and you're going to come here because you ain't going to have no choice.
Well, that's what's good. That's okay. Now,
Revan, Revan had his hand up. Give it to Revan.
Yeah, I want to get back to the topic here real quick. Nevada has passed a law now that bans van life. They're banning van life all around. Now the whole homelessness thing is getting bad because when you look at the housing bubble, rent is high. I mean, it's like it's getting bad where people are losing their homes, they're losing what they have, and they're living from home. You know.
Yeah. Well, you look at it this way. When I left California, a few years before I left California, before I even started our Resistance Network, before it was even called that, before I started doing those YouTube videos, I was doing the Tommy Bird shit. And we lived, me, Tommy Bird, and a few other people, we lived in a 3-bedroom house on a big piece of land for $1,700 a month. Now, in California, the rent for a 2-bedroom apartment is $2,500.
Yeah.
The homeless population has increased exponentially to where you have Donald Trump and the federal government interceding on the matter, whether for better or for worse. We can get back to that in a moment. But again, kind of goes back to what Connor and I were just talking about, the financial collapse. Who runs the Federal Reserve? Who's printing the money? Who owns that shit? The Jewish-owned banks. Rothschild, who stated they wanted collapse. Now, there's a pretty high population of Jewish people in democratic areas, such as San Francisco, where a lot of the homeless population are. Oh, shit. Our cost of living is through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
Jews own the freaking banks. It's almost as if they're trying to create a system to where it's deliberately trying to get the American people to point the finger at the Jews. It's like, okay, the Jews are the cause of all my problems. And at which point you create so much homelessness, so much starvation, you create an enemy, even if they are not the enemy. At which point, poor Jew, guess what? Guess what, Orthodox Jew? You have no choice but to go back to Israel, even though God told you not to. Yeah. Because you got nowhere else to go because your own people, quote unquote, got you kicked out.
Exactly.
And dude, you just hit the nerve. Okay? What you're looking at is purposeful negative propaganda. Okay? Now, yes. I'll tell you why. You ready why? Israel, kind of in a state of war. Probably lost a few soldiers along the way. What do you need to do if you're an
more
Israeli
pawns
citizen?
on the board?
What do you need to do if you're an Israeli citizen? Mandatory service.
Yep.
So we're going to twist the narrative. We're going to make the whole world hate the Jews.
It's like, oh shit, I'm losing my pawns. Okay, pawns over here. Gonna move the pawns over here. There you go.
That's right. So, but how do we move them? Because
There's the game.
The pawns don't
There's the
want to
game.
move. The pawns don't want to go to war. So what do we do?
No.
Well, we get all the big pieces
We
behind
take 'em.
the pawns to throw them out.
Yep.
Purposeful negative.
You get the opposing side to send the pawns over there.
Exactly. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening. They're running out of soldiers. They need all of these countries to hate the Jews so that we exile the good God-fearing Jew. That's why I always said, please protect a good God-fearing Jew and do not mince my words, because we're going to fucking send people in mass to Israel, a land they've never been to. They'll be forced to do conscription and 2 years of military, and boom, the Israeli military grows almost overnight.
Yep.
I'm just waiting for Russia. Just waiting for Russia to tell the United States they have to put the rabid dog down, or that they'll do it first. Like I said, all that needs to happen is for one country to drop 1 or 2 nuclear weapons in the right place, and the rest of the world go, fucking shit, it had to happen. Now it's over.
Yep.
It's over, right, guys?
Right place, right time.
Yep.
Right.
And, it's like what Reverend and I were talking about last week. What did I say last week? If Trump were smart, he would figure out, oh, hey, when it comes to America and Russia and the rest of these countries, all these other lesser countries are like little children in mom and pop's ear, keeping them pitted against each other. If Trump were smart, because Russia wants to be America number 2.
Yeah, exactly.
He would say, fuck NATO, fuck all these other alliances, form a new alliance with Russia, and go, okay, kids, mom and pop are on the same page now, and we got a big belt for your ass. Go to your rooms, sit down, and shut the fuck up so mom and dad can have some peace and quiet.
Exactly.
Awesome. I got to peace out. I got that's my time. I got to get ready to go pick up my wife and all the good stuff. But yeah, that's where we're at with all of it. So how's it going to happen? Don't know. When's it going to happen? Don't know. The only thing that's important, just know why it's going to happen. If we can at least know why, we won't overreact when it does.
Exactly.
Right.
And when it does,
you guys' court. And did you guys keep it up? Me and you started alone. You guys could finish alone. It's all awesome sauce, man. This is a beautiful podcast.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Take care, brother.
Peace.
Peace.
I've been watching some van life vids and shit, and there's a lady that lives in an old bus, and and then there's a couple that's living in a motorhome, and they're trying to crack down on van life, And the thing is, all these rich fuckers are saying, well, we need you in a structure where we could collect money from you through city water, power, all that shit. Well, the thing is, if you look at every single person who's living in their motorhome, they're vented shit, who are well by their means and they're happy as fuck. And also, if you look at Marin in the Bay Area, you got people living in houseboats and shit, man, living within their means. They're happy as fuck,
Yeah, I mean, there are some people who are just nomads living off the land, just setting up shop wherever, in the middle of fucking nowhere that's not technically owned by anyone. They're not bothering anybody. They're just doing their own thing. I mean, even the fucking Amish who technically own their land, they're getting shit because the utility companies and the states want to be able to make money off of them, and they can't because they're not a part of the utility systems.
I've got money because the thing is, hold on here, hold on.
Yeah, it's a very interesting conundrum.
Give me a minute, bro.
Yeah, you handle what you got to handle. I'll carry on. It's a very interesting conundrum if you really stop to think about it. Some of these people who are just living off the land, you know, if the homeless populations are being forced into housing units, whether they be mental institutions, rehab centers, um, secular government approved housing, or Section 8, or even FEMA camps. Some of these people, are just kind of like nomads, just kind of just wanting to be left alone. But there are people who are genuinely homeless who do need help. Some of which want help and can't get it. Some of which need help but don't want it. And there are other people who are just looking for a simpler life. So where do you draw the line and separate one from the other? Or do you just effectively just throw everybody in a melting pot and just kill them all like God sort of thing? That's where my big question is in all of this. If how do you separate the people who genuinely need help from those who don't and just want to live off the land? And where do you draw the line from this being an intervention and helping people to fix their shit where they otherwise couldn't or wouldn't, like instances with my sister, and this not turn into a FEMA camp or even Nazi-esque camp situation? Where do you draw the line there in preventing this from being a humanitarian effort to reconditioning camps and concentration camps and all that? And I really wish Revan would hurry up and get back, because my brain is... I'd really like somebody to freaking feed off my words right now. I see I got 2 people who are watching. Go ahead and throw in some comments. Let's have a little back and forth. I can see your comments when people post. So go ahead and post some comments and some thoughts. Here's the question. How do you separate the people who need help from the people who don't need help in terms of this forced homelessness relocation program? And how do we prevent this program from going from humanitarianism and an intervention to being a Nazi death camp? And people are gone. Well, I know Revan's got a lot of things going on in his life right now. Hopefully he gets back soon. A lot of personal shit happening in his life, a lot of personal shit happening in Connor's life. We all have stuff going on in our lives that are really making things difficult. But since Revan is not here, I'm going to go ahead and just elaborate a little bit. We do the best we can to try to get the word out there and cover the topics that aren't generally covered by the mainstream or even alternative medias. Like, this is a subject that really hasn't been covered by Alex Jones. This is something that was briefly touched on in the mainstream media, kind of alienating the Trump administration, as they so often attempt to do. But, we want to try to do a deep dive into the pros and cons of the situation, how it got to this point, how it's going, and where it's going to wind up. And, just kind of a recap here for anybody just tuning in. You would have to say that, the poor economic decisions, especially in terms of California, the poor economic conditions, the influx of migration, even in the early days of the Clinton and Bush administration, were huge contributing factors to the economic issues faced in California in particular. More people move there, the higher the cost of living goes. The more people, the harder it is to get a job. You had a massive influx of people, but not a huge influx of jobs. You had massive economic boom where they built a whole shit ton of houses, but most of the jobs were out of town. And then the gas prices shot up. People couldn't afford to travel. And the rates on these people's mortgages for the houses they bought were adjustable rate mortgages. So the cost of their houses went up. So you have the cost of living increases. You have job availability going down because of the influx of the populace and the ever increasing population, in contrast to a virtually non-existent increase in job growth. Inevitably is what led to the crisis that California is now faced with. It wasn't just Biden. This started long before Biden. Biden just kind of fell asleep and inadvertently put the pedal to the metal, so to speak. And most of that wasn't even federal. It was local government not doing what they were supposed to do. I mean, if you take the Democrat and Republican out of the equation, even a Democratic voter, if you put them in a rundown area like California, and they don't know where, just blindfold the Democrat, put them in a rundown area, and take the blindfold off. Don't tell them where they are, what political party is in power there, or what have you. Just drop them in that area, take off the blindfold, and go, how do you like these surroundings? What do you think about the policies that have created this situation? They're going to look at their surroundings and go, this is a fucking shithole. I don't know who's in charge here, but their policies are complete fucking crap. Even though it's, say, Compton. And they didn't know it was Compton. They didn't know it was being run by a Democratic mayor and a Democratic congressman. They just looked at an area from an unbiased perspective and went, whoever's in charge here needs to be fucking fired because this is crap. And I think that is where we really need to get as a society. We need to take off the goggles and stop being extreme right or extreme left or even having any sort of political bias and just look at the situations and go, okay, this just ain't right. Left, right, be damned. What's being done isn't working. What this party is doing isn't working, left or right. If it ain't working, it ain't working. And at which point, we the people need to start taking a stand and going, okay, what you're doing isn't working. This isn't benefiting us. You're not taking care of us. You're not taking care of home. Now home's going to push back. We're going to start fixing this. And it starts with the people. That's a big thing with MAGA and whatnot. Whether you like Trump or not, regardless of whether you think he's screwing up with Epstein or not, we do notice a pattern. Trump acted stupid in this Epstein situation. The people called him out. And though he was sticking to his guns, now you kind of see him backpedaling a little bit. You notice he's more scared of his constituents than he is of his handlers. And that's the fear we need to reinstill in government. We need to remind them that we're the boss. We need to get back to where the citizens no longer fear their government, but the government fears its citizens. And we need to do it in a way that doesn't entail actually getting violent, but that the point's driven home that though we're not going to get violent right now, we're going to get back to this level of thinking without it getting violent. Make no mistake, we can take the belt off and whoop your ass, Mr. President, Mr. Congressman, Mr. Senator. And that's the mindset we need to get back to as a society. And if we get back to that society, to that mindset as a society, regardless of what political leaning you have, if we are unified in that, government stupidity going to drop real quick. When it gets to the point where the government realizes that the people are going to say what they want and they're not going to take no for an answer, that the American people are not going to take no for an answer in terms of what they want, in terms of how this country is to be ran and what's in the American people's best interest, and say that the best interest of the American people is back in the hands of the people, and that we're not going to take no for an answer, then, and only then, will the stupidity in the government end. Now, Revan has had to step away. I don't really have anything more to say on this matter. Connor's already called it a day. If anybody has any thoughts regarding this, feel free to share them in the comments section. And we can see about picking this up next week. If not, then we'll see what next week brings in terms of talking points. But until next time, on behalf of Revan and Connor, I'm the Tin Man with the Worldwide Resistance Network. If you're watching this, you are the Resistance.